Thank you, Chair, and thank you for being here today. Let me just start by, I want to talk about some redundancies. Before I do so, Mr Stevens asked me for some evidence of ABC bias. I sent that to you and to him. 20 pages, backed up by other pages of supporting documents. Moving to the redundancies, and I'd like to talk about that later if time permits. What was the ABC headcount for ongoing employees in 2022 to 2023?
Senator, Ms Klein will give that to you. We'll find the exact number. It's in the annual report.
Thank you, Mr Anderson.
Thank you. So, Senator, sorry, can I just confirm the number for ongoing employees? So that's Appendix 5 in the annual report. And sorry, Senator, your first question was 22-23 or 21? 22-23. 22-23, yep, 3,805. 3,805. So that's all ongoing employees.
FTEs.
What was
headcount?
Is that headcount or FTE?
It's a headcount.
Headcount.
What was the headcount 12 months earlier?
Headcount 12 months earlier, Senator, was 3,825.
So that's a difference in headcount of 20?
That's correct.
Okay. Yet in 2023, you've paid out $22.2 million in redundancies for 20 less people in the headcount.
Senator, the 22 million I think you're referring to within our annual report in the employee provisions is actually a provisioned amount. So we made our announcement on the 15th of June. We provisioned for the redundancies at the financial year end. The employees had not exited. So any impacted employees had not yet exited at the financial year end.
So what does the 22.2 million cover?
The 22.2 million covers an estimated redundancy provision on the basis of the announcement we made on the 15th of June, which impacts approximately 127 people.
So how many have gone, though, out of those 127?
At the time of the annual report, no employees had gone. Because of the timing of the announcement, so we had just provisioned for the redundancies. I can provide an update as at, Senator, as at the 30th of September, so post the financial year end, 74 employees had exited. 74.
So how many people will that $22.2 million cover?
The $22 million provision, I anticipate will cover. Sorry, Senator, I paused because through our process. So at the time of the announcement, our announcement,
right?
Our announcement was up to 130 people. Through the process of consultation, a number of people are able to have a redeployment opportunity. So that's why I pause in terms of how many do I anticipate. I would not like to give a view on what might happen through a redeployment process.
So it's around 130 minus any redeployment.
Yeah. So some roles naturally became vacant. So, as I say, at the 30th of September, 74 employees. So I would estimate that number might move to perhaps 100.
So that's $220,000 each?
So the redundancy,
on average?
The redundancy provision at the time for 130 people, it might be more helpful. So mathematically I can understand the question, but perhaps if I could provide that on notice, because it's not quite as simple as that was the basis on which we provisioned for the redundancy.
Vary on classification and pay rates, etc. Okay, if you could provide that on
absolutely
on notice, please. I'd like to move to Heston Russell, which Senator Henderson raised a minute ago. I wonder if you remember, Mr Anderson, in February this year, I think we were sitting in this room, and I was asking you about reporting in relation to Alice Springs. I said to you in February, and I quote, The ABC has been previously accused of being overly defensive and painting itself as constantly being under attack. Did this in any way contribute to the ABC failing to make an impartial view of the reporting and initially defending it when it should have immediately apologised?" End of quote. That was on the Alice Springs issue, and your response to me was simply no. Do you remember when I said that?
No, I don't. I'm sorry, Senator, but that...
That's okay.
Okay.
I can't remember the details either. That's why we have documents. The ABC just suffered a humiliating defamation loss in the Heston Russell case. The Honourable Justice Lee of the Federal Court of Australia said in his judgment, and I quote, "I gained the impression that a highly defensive mentality arose within the ABC in relation to the work done by ABC Investigations, and in particular Mr Willisey." End of quote. That ABC journalist, the quote continues, "That ABC journalist became defensive about any criticism and considered such criticism was emblematic of a broader culture war attack. Mrs Bassini was at times palpably frustrated by her participation in the process by which the ABC's conduct was being questioned. Her defensiveness meant she was chary about giving any answer she considered would amount to a concession." That's the end. Oh, it continues. Justice Lee finally surmised that, quote, "There may be several reasons why this dispute resulted in expensive and protracted litigation, but one of them was the existence of a defensive mindset inhibiting a proper remedial response to criticism." So it seems, Mr Anderson, that according to the judge who's listened to a lot of people, your journalists were too defensive, unable to bring themselves to apologise, and that has led to a defamation loss at great expense to the taxpayer. Yet you've maintained to us here that there is no problem with the culture at the ABC. I've raised it with you, and now a federal court judge has handed down a judgment criticising exactly that. Do you even know how pervasive this defensive culture is within your organisation?
Senator, what can I say to that? So I think that, look, most journalists, I haven't met a journalist that isn't slightly defensive about any story that they might have written and published at some point. I think all I can do with what the judge has handed down is accept that that was His Honour's view throughout the trial. I didn't attend the trial, but you're right, he would have listened to a lot of people. Again, the context in which that was intended, I think, is contained in the rest of the judgment. I don't know if, and again, we're going to go through this line by line, I don't know if that means that there was another option somewhere in the middle of this for us that was ignored. I don't know if it's in relation to corrections and clarifications. I know that at some point before we ended up in proceedings, we did offer to put a clarifying note that sat on the story. That was rejected at the time. The judge's view is the judge's view about a defensive mindset that he witnessed with the people that were participating. So I can only accept that judgment, learn from it, and we'll go through it line by line about what that specifically relates to.
So how are you going to fix it? I know you want to go through line by line. How are you going to fix it?
Senator, it is true to say that we do get a lot of criticism that is quite public on a regular basis. So from the lowest levels of the organisation to myself. We are the most scrutinised media organisation in the country, and we're scrutinised for good reason. I agree that we should turn up at Senate estimates, agree that we should be as transparent as we are, but that does come with a lot of criticism.
How are you going to fix it?
Senator, it is again, when it comes to specifically our journalism, how we're going to fix it, I think we're going to, as I said before, we're going to have a look at this judgment about what, there's a lot to learn from this, because if we end up in this situation again about what Justice Lee is saying to us, we need to take that on board, and we'll have a look at how we react to these situations in the future.
Essentially, a federal court judge has said that a defensive mindset in your journalists led to protracted litigation. What was the amount for damages awarded to Heston Russell?
Senator, that was, there's no aggravated damages, but damages at $390,000.
What is the ABC's legal bill for this matter with Heston Russell currently?
Senator, sorry, Chair, was that directed at me?
No, to me.
Okay, sorry. Look, it'll be circa, at the moment, so it's still going, but it'll be, it'll be 700,000 or 800,000 to date.
So that's 1.2 million, roughly. And what about how much in cost does the ABC expect will be awarded to Heston Russell?
Don't know yet, Senator. That's playing out right now as we speak. So first there's a cost hearing, submissions will be made, and then a negotiation ensues.
Okay. I'll come back to that.
You can come back.
Yep.
We'll go to